Welcome, everyone. It's great to have you here. It's almost 3:30. So, Jess, I just want to let you know I've given you co-host, right? So you should be able to share your screen when you're ready. And we're really lucky we might be able to add on another second project description from Lori Gunnick if we have time at the end of the session. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to do today. We are going to be talking about the Better Together grant. And this year we changed our schedule. So we thought, why not kick off every new grant with a little explanation of what we're going to do, what the guidelines are, and a chance for you to hear from other people who have done the grant in the past. And they've had some really creative ideas, all of them. So it's fun to hear what they've done. All right. So to get started today, I am going to have Jennifer, who is behind the scenes, be your tech support. So Jennifer Parkhurst is manning our chat. And so if you're having problems with something or you have a question, you can simply pop it in the chat and Jennifer will be watching. And she's our, like I said, she's our admin assistant. Hi, Jennifer. She just said hello. I'm Bethany Kaufman. I'm the director of Prairie Lands Library Exchange. And today I have with me Jessica Dibsetter, who's the director of the Minneota Public Library, and Jan Bott, who's the former media specialist at St. Edward's School in Minneota. They also worked with Minneota Public School, but Sandy wasn't able to be here today because their schedule conflicted with this time. So they'll be telling you all about what they did with their Better Together grant last year. Okay, let's get started. It's 3:31. I'm going to try and get this done in 15 minutes. So I'm going to ask Jenny to drop the PDF of our grant schedule for the fiscal year in the chat. Prairie Lands Library Exchange operates from July to June, like a school year. And so we just recently started our new fiscal year. As you can see from the PDF, you should be able to click on application links and guideline links right from that PDF. And you can see that unlike in the past, we're going to be having most of our grants open for an entire year. This grant, starting this month, is called Better Together. And I'm just going to read to you what the board, the governing board for Prairie Lands, and what the staff of Prairie Lands put together to help you understand the grant. The goal of the grant is to invite you, libraries, museums, historical societies, and archives to come together and engage with broader and more diverse audiences through collaborative programming. But there's a little thing about this that's a little bit different. We want to have you bring together two libraries or historical societies or museums of different types. So we suggest something like a high school library, public school library, and an academic library. Plan a time or an activity to help students make a transition to the college experience, or a historical society and a public library, or like we've had happen, a historical society, a public library, and a public school. Or like happened in Minneota, a private school, a public school, and a public library worked together, and Prairie Lands will be offering $1,000 to your collaboration to help you make it happen. This is a chance for you to try something you've never tried before and not have to worry quite so much about the bill. All right, Jenny, would you put a summary in the chat of some examples of things that have happened in the past? So Jenny does a great job. She usually makes a little graphic every time we start a new grant, and she places that graphic out on our social media or in our newsletter. And it's a way for you to get a little bit of brainstorming support because it'll show you what's happened in the past and what other libraries have tried when they applied for this grant. So this grant is for two or more libraries of different types. It's for up to $1,000. It will be open for 12 months from August to July. And once you apply, you have 90 days to complete your evaluation and your request for reimbursement. I'm going to explain that more at the end or just go over it one more time. So with no further ado, I am going to turn this over to Jess and Jan, who are going to tell you about what they did last year with their Better Together grant so that you can begin to see how this grant works and maybe get inspired to try something similar yourself. Jess, you should be able to share your screen.
Okay, and then were you guys going to run the slides? Is that okay?
Yes, I'd be glad to do that. So I'll
Okay.
do that right now. I'll get that up while you get started.
Sounds good. So I am actually on my phone because I'm at home and our work laptop doesn't have a camera, which just makes things complicated.
Yes, it
So
does.
rather than trying to have to juggle devices, I asked Bethany if she would be gracious enough to run our little slideshow. So just what did we do? We basically created like a guest student librarian program. So the individual schools selected students that they felt would be interested in an opportunity to be like a guest librarian for a period of time. These displays ran approximately, 2 weeks at a time. And then we had a display at the public library. And then some of the funding that went to the schools enabled the student librarians to help select books for their school library. Where did I get the idea? Well, where do a lot of good ideas come from? It came from Facebook and crowdsourcing. So I had a list of, things that I had run across that looked interesting or like things that I might want to try. At that point, I was really new in Minnesota, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to make some connections with the school libraries and the school librarians. Just have something kind of interesting to bring to the table as a relatively new employee. And then we were going to talk a little bit about what went well. So I'm going to turn that over to Jan first, and then I'll do kind of from the public library perspective.
Would you like me to advance the slides?
I don't know why I'm not seeing those.
Oh, you guys aren't
Yeah,
seeing that?
sure. Yep. So this is just some general information about, kind of the partnerships that were created. Yeah, if you want to go maybe just to the second one, and then I'll let Jan talk about
let me
what
just
went well from
confirm. Can you see it?
Yes, that looks
Okay,
great.
perfect. Great. Okay.
Am I right? Am I supposed to go, Jess? Are you?
Yes, is that all right? Just to talk about what went well from your perspective.
I actually wrote on my notes that there was really very little that did not go well. I would say that one of the things that I thought was just amazing is how excited our students were when we talked to them. I had the teachers help me pick which students because I'm alone in the library, so I didn't really want to have it that I chose, maybe some of my more advanced readers or whatever. So the teachers and I chose who they were going to be, and they were just very excited. And one of the moms actually mentioned that she felt it was her daughter struggles a little bit more in school than average maybe. And so she thought it was going to be just a huge boost to her confidence to have been chosen and to get to choose books that her classmates and such would read. So the way I did it is I divided the school. We had 2 students, and I divided it in K through 4 and then 5 through 8. So both of our students kind of did a little bit of a survey from their classmates and the other classes that they were trying to choose books for to find out what they wanted. And of course, I think we as librarians always have a wish list going in our library. So I had some ideas for them too. The other thing that I felt went really amazingly well is the 2 students I had, the parent, in both cases, it was the moms, were just very, very helpful. They helped the girls choose the books a little bit. We're in a lot of communication with me and with Jessica, and just really, they were as excited, I think, as the students were. And I would say too that the communication, even though that's one of the things that I felt we could have maybe done something different on, and I'll talk about that later, but it was just no matter when I emailed Jessica with a question or a clarification, she responded very quickly, and she was also in communication with the parents from my school, and so that went very, very well too. And then the last thing I would say that went really well is that I had my students, I don't know if Sandy at the public school did, but I had my students actually come to the library then and get the books shelf ready so they could see what that involved, putting it into the computer, putting the spine labels on, putting the barcode label on. We do the AR, so we had to put AR levels in all of the books. And so I thought that was an amazing experience. I think I enjoyed it as much as the students did. So I don't know if Jess has anything else she wants to say about went well.
Yeah, so just, I was going to point out on these pictures, so that top one, you can see that we made little book plates that if the students wanted to put their names in the books, they were able to, and also just to kind of track what books entered our collection through that grant program. That middle largest picture shows a display at Jan's school, and then the other one shows the public library display that went up. No, I mean, I just generally felt that it went really smoothly, and I was really pleased at an opportunity to get to collaborate so much, because I do really feel like it opened up lines of communication between the schools and the public library. I think it helped, me see more opportunities for ways that we can do a better job of serving those school communities and those students and their families. And so, yeah, it was just kind of a great experience. Moving to what we would do differently, I think we can advance to the next slide. This is just a picture of one of our displays. I'm just talking about the relationships that I just mentioned. So, I really feel like one thing that I would probably do differently in the future is that when we started a new display at the public library, I would probably have some sort of an event, invite students and their families as well as other community members to come out, make it a little bit more formal. We just had, a general announcement that the displays were going up that went out on the public library side as well as on the school side, and families and friends of the students would kind of know that they could come visit, but it wasn't very formal. And I do think we probably could have done more to promote that part. And then I think some of the communication, you kind of learn what you did well and what you didn't do well based on how everything goes. So some of that communication would probably be a little bit smoother next time too.
I agree. Jess and I have talked about it, that, just her vision was very clear, that there were some confusion for me, and maybe part of it was just, you get in your head what you think it is and it's not. And so I thought maybe possibly, even though it's hard to do that, maybe an in-person meeting with the three of us at the beginning may have been helpful. Mm-hmm. And then the only other thing I would say is the display at the public library was in, back towards the children's books, which makes perfect sense. But I did have one of my parents say that they felt it would have been better had it been more the entrance of the library. And obviously the library has two different entrances too, but the main entrance is kind of the one she was talking about, so that it would have maybe brought a little more attention to everybody that walked in, rather than maybe just those that meandered back to the children's library. And Jess and I have talked about it. I'm on the library board, and we are hoping to do some changes in the display area of the children's library in the future, and that will make a big difference too if we do this type of thing again.
Yeah, definitely. So we actually don't even have a very specific, we have a very specific children's area. We're not as specific with where we shelve, like new books that have come in for children. And so a lot of times, they might go kind of on a display along that back wall, but sometimes that's being used for other things. So yeah, we definitely want to get a little bit more intentional about making it clear to people where they can find some of these special displays when they come in, where they can find new materials, and that kind of stuff. Just talking about how much money was spent, the funding was divided out by location. And so the public school was split into an elementary library and high school library. They share the same physical space, but obviously it's, different populations in the school that would be using those books. And each of those locations received $500 to spend. So the public library, with our portion of the funding, was able to purchase approximately 2 or 3 books per student librarian for a display and to add to the public library's collection. We also purchased like an acrylic display for shelving some of those books to just arrange them a little bit better. I think in that picture that's on the previous slide, you can kind of see it. But yeah, it's kind of like this zigzag acrylic display on that second shelf down. Yeah, and then in terms of what patrons said about the event and programming and display materials, we just had a lot of people that came in and were really excited. It was nice for me to see people who maybe I hadn't seen in the library before, or who might have commented, gee, it's been a really long time since I've been in here, or gee, I really haven't been in the building since you've been in the new space. And then that move happened about 10 years ago, so I haven't been in a while, who are coming to see some of the displays and celebrate the students who participated in the program. And then I don't know if you want to share anything else on that, Jan. And then this just has general contact information. And if you scan the QR code, I put together like a Google Drive folder that has some general stuff in there. Has you know, a picture of some of those display posters that would have gone with the student librarian display, so you can see what an example of that would look like. It has those book plates that we used. It also has my husband, who is a fantastic farmer / engineer and has a very technical mind, created a grant tracking calculator. If that's something that would be useful to anybody, you're welcome to take a copy of that and just kind of modify it and make it yours. It's an Excel spreadsheet that allows you to input a total amount that you have on a grant. And then keep track of ongoing expenses so you can see how much is remaining. I also found it really nice for sharing with the schools to kind of, you know, keep accountable and kind of show where we were with purchasing, as well as for reporting at the end. So yeah, you're welcome to any of the materials in there. And then Jan, I don't know if you had anything about what people said about the program.
I just heard nothing but positive comments from teachers, other school staff, and of course the students. And I just really enjoyed it. You know, I'm not going to lie, it was a little bit of work on my part for $500. Hey, you know, what school, whether you're private or public, doesn't need, you know, additional money for purchasing books in the library? So that was really, and I think we're certainly open to questions if people have questions, if we have to answer that, Bethany.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So I'm going to stop sharing now. And I'm going to ask Jenny to drop in the guidelines for the grant. Excuse me. So that you can see what the guidelines are for this specific grant and see if it's something you want to try and find a partner and collaborate on to create. Okay, we've hit 3:47. So here's what we're going to tell you. Jenny will also drop into the chat a link to a document we made that will hopefully help you, whether you work in a public library, a college library, a historical society, museum, a public school, know how to show us that there's proof that you paid for the items so that we can reimburse you. That can be really confusing for people. And we want to take your questions. So what we'd like to do is this. Anybody who said my 15 minutes are up and I'm out, great. Make sure you scanned. If you didn't scan that QR code, I'll send that out to everybody who's here today. And I will also send out anything else if you email me that you have questions about. Next, I'd like to put Jess and Jan's emails in the chat so that you could ask them about this very specific collaboration they did that was really popular in their town. Jenny, are you able to do that for us as well? Okay, great. Perfect. Sorry about the no link for the invoice purchase. She's got that there. All right, so if you want to reach out to Jan and you want to reach out to Jess, you can do that. They're willing to tell you how they did their grant and how it went. And now you can go if you'd like, but if you want to stay on and you have a couple minutes, Jenny, Jan, Jess, and I are ready to answer any questions you might have. And if you can stay even a minute more, we will let Lori share about what she did with the Historical Society and the Public Library in her community. But the Historical Society couldn't be here. So real quick, Q&A, any questions? Feel free to unmute or put it in the chat. Okay, that's awesome because Lori, if you'd like to talk about what you guys did, Jody is here, I see too, on the call. So Jody, if you we our 15 minutes is up, but if you guys are able to stay for a couple more minutes, I would love for everybody who's here to get to hear what they did with their Better Together grant this last year. So Lori and Jody, if you'd like to chat, you can. And you can show your screen too.
And I don't have anything to share
That's
screen
fine.
wise, so
No.
okay. Um, we partnered, like Beth said, with the Historical Society and the Public Library, and we brought in Paul Horsted, who's a historical photographer, and he has 3 different books that are out, and he was very nice and donated those back to the school also. We also involved a community partner, which is our Pipestone Performing Arts Center. So we had a presentation at the school during the day, and then the Pipestone Performing Arts Center in the evening. And he takes historical photographs, and most of it was in South Dakota in the Black Hills, but he takes historical photographs and he goes back and recreates them in the exact spot. And then in his book, they're side by side. So his presentation, he explained his process more, also showed the different photographs, and talked about it and answered questions for the children or the students, which was really cool. I don't know, Jody, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I don't think so. Emily is here with me too.
Oh,
Yeah, no, I don't. It was fantastic. We've worked with this crew before, to bring great things to our community. And yeah, I just think outside the box is all I would say. Is this is a really great opportunity for you to, like, any of those things that are just kind of on the back burner that you think, oh, that's a wish list. These Prairie Lands grants are really great to try those things out and to kind of do some things that you just hope you can do someday. So take advantage of that.